Happy Friday! Happy Friday, January 24th. Oh my gosh. Today's my favorite day. Yes, 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 yes. Not the same traditionally as most people who work 9 to 5 jobs, but because, wow, I just love Fridays. I used to actually use this as my recap day, but I've started, changing things up a little bit more. And today now, what I'm liking about Friday is I've called Fridays Reflection Friday. So you get to do things like reflecting on things, whether it's past, present, or even future things, right? And so that's why I love Friday, because it's like, well, first of all, like I said, I've changed it up a bit. So now it's about reflecting. And I'm really super excited. As you can see in the title notes, today's topic is all around reflecting on time past. In other words, revisiting your life. It's essential for our emotional well-being to achieve self-awareness around our emotions so we make better decisions in how we respond when we're triggered based on how we're feeling. Now, achieving self-awareness means really getting to know who you are, being open to change, because guess what? Change is inevitable. And then embracing that pivoting may be part of the process. In fact, it's part of the process that a lot of the time, along with change, we also resist. I know change is hard because we're always trying to control the outcome of everything in our life, right? We're always trying to say, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is the foundation that I've put in place. This is the way I've packaged it, and I expect it to go this way, all my ducks in a row, the way A to Z. That's how I've set it up. But something might come in to put a little crook into that. And if you're not open to that, everything could fall apart because you're like fighting it. And when you're open to change and accept that, maybe embracing that pivoting also may be part of it, that new opportunity, that new connection could be revealing itself to you. That's happened to me even just recently. I'm working with some people who are really helping me to like really develop my skill set and getting me into a place where not only do I make myself a better version of me, but I'm also going to be a better version for you of myself, right? To be able to share better, to give you more value, and to help you have better transformations. Hello, I'm Leslie Cadet, and I'm an empowerment coach. I help my clients achieve self-awareness around their emotions so that they can handle their triggers, manage their emotions, and live a more positive life. Now, if you are new to my lives, I just want to say welcome. And if you've been listening for a while, I want to say thank you so much for coming back. Welcome home. I really appreciate your support. I truly appreciate you very much, because without you, I'm just talking to the screen, right? So I just want to say thank you so much. So today, as I said, I want to talk to you about reflecting on time past, more particularly revisiting your life. But before I get started, let me explain the triggers cycle that I have behind me and what some triggers are. So this is what I call the trigger cycle. This is something that we go through every day. And maybe nobody's really pointed that out to you or explained that to you, or you've not really even thought about it, because we're not typically like reflecting on our emotions, right? Unless you're getting deep and that's the type of person, that's the journey that you're on. But typically most people are not just thinking, they're not sitting at home thinking, okay, trigger, emotion, response. They're not, right? That's just a fact of life. But this is something that we do go on. And as you can see, in the middle is our emotional cycle on repeat. Yes, on repeat, meaning we'll go through it at least once a day, sometimes multiple times a day. Now, I know some of you who have been following me for a while have children, so you know what I'm talking about when I say triggered and emotions. I'm not getting this in the way. Triggers and emotions, right? Because your kids can trigger you. And then it's up to you, like, how do you respond, mom and dad, to be in that place, because you understand that they're just going through life and they don't maybe understand how to maybe express their feelings. And so it's up to us as parents. Well, I'm not a parent, but as an adult, to be able to make a conscious decision, a better decision around how I would respond if I had kids in my life, that are around me. How do I respond to that, right? And being responsible and just being able to respond in a better, more positive way. So triggers, what are triggers? Triggers are an event, something happens in your life, whether it's internal or external, because there are different types of triggers, and that will evoke an emotion, meaning an emotion is going to happen. So between the trigger and how you respond, there's going to be that emotion in the middle, and it's how you assign the meaning to that emotion. So you have that emotion that gets fueled by your trigger. Your emotion then will drive your response, meaning how you show up in the things that you say and you do. Now, the things that you say and you do are going to provide you with a reward, meaning positive or negative. The positive reward would be you are self-aware around your triggers. You understand triggers in general. You understand how you are triggered emotionally when something happens. And then you, in turn, are able to make better decisions in how you respond and the things that you say and you do, so that you're not actually having to go back and fix things. And that's the negative side to it. Because if you are not self-aware, you are the type of person then you're allowing your emotions to manage you. And then so you'll just show up and say whatever you want. You'll do whatever you want, knowing that maybe someone's going to get hurt because they happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and something happens, you say or do something that's going to maybe undermine a relationship, hurt someone. And when you've had time to cool off, this is where it gets tricky, because you have to go back and try and fix and mend that relationship. Most of the time you can do that if people have a vested emotional interest in you, meaning your close friends, your family members, your significant other, your children. They have an emotional connection to you. And so they will most of the time give you a pass. But it's when you work with people professionally that you might only get a pass now and again, not meaning that you're not going to get that pass every single time if that's your normal MO of how you show up. So that's why it's so important, especially around this in professional relationships. You want to be able to make better decisions on how you show up. So some triggers could be the anniversary date of loss or trauma, could be a scary news event. It could be a very volatile news event that's going on right now. We already know we have one that's being going on right now, the impeachment of the president. And so that makes it that's really a difficult one, right? There's all kinds of emotions coming from that. It could be family friction, could be the end of a personal or professional relationship. It also could be isolation, overwhelm, maybe you were judged or criticized growing up, or maybe even financial issues. And so, as I said, there are triggers to those triggers. They all work. It's another training that I can go into with you. But for now, those are triggers. Some triggers, what they do, as I said, they evoke an emotion, they in turn fuels it. The emotion is where how you show up and the things that you say you do. That's how it drives that response. Your response provides you with the reward, being positive or negative. I've given you the positive when you are self-aware. You make better decisions. When you are not, you always have to go back and fix things that you've said and done. So with that being said, let's get to today's topic, which is revisiting your life. Now, I knew today I was going to reflect on something, but I wasn't quite sure what. A lot of the time, most of the times I'm actually figuring out what I want to talk to you about, because I get that feeling. So I'm in the moment when I'm talking to you. I really don't like to be too prepared. And the reason why I say that is because emotions don't work like that. It's not like they're cookie cutter. Like, today I'm going to feel like this, and it's always going to be hunky-dory all day. Then tomorrow it's going to be like this. No, that's not how emotions work. So today I knew I was going to revisit something, and I was going to reflect back, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work. And so earlier today, I listened to a podcast. Now, someone here local to Vegas, his name is James Silvas. He has a podcast called Be That 1%. He's a mindset coach. He's really awesome. Anyways, his take, he had a take on the decades, and it was just about reflecting back on your life. So like going back through time and piecing together your journey. So you go back through, whether you start at like 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, or maybe you decide to reflect back on your teens, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, whatever that stage of life that you are in, you reflect back on the decades, right? And you go through all the decades. Now, there are likely some amazing gems from your past of how you process life in general that could be very insightful for you to use today. But a lot of the time, we're like on to the next, right? We're moving on to the next. We don't really like hold on to things. And a lot of the things that we hold on to are negative, so we're not actually holding on to the positive things. And so some of those positive things, or some of the coping skills that we used to have when we were more positive or confident in our own skin, and we've forgotten about. And so when we're older, we've forgotten about it and didn't realize that those things have always been a part of us, but somehow they got lost in translation. So now for me, I'm in my late 50s. Yes, I'm almost 57 next month. Woohoo! But I don't, to me, it's like, whatever, 57, it's a number. And so reflecting back on the past 10 years of where I was, where I am, and where I'm going is kind of a cool thought. But I wanted to actually go a little bit further. So like right now, I'm enjoying the journey. I'm embracing the process of my life. And I want to go back through the decades. So let me take you down memory lane for me real quick. And for the purposes of this exercise, I'll start from my late teens going forward. So here we go. When I was in high school, I knew that right after graduating, I would have to get a job, okay? So I knew that. Getting a degree wasn't even on the radar for me, nor was going to college or university. It wasn't nurtured as a possibility. I didn't even think it was possible. I didn't think it was something that I could do, or even if I could afford to do it. Actually, I knew that I didn't have the available funds to do it. Our family didn't have money, and being resourceful wasn't even in my vocabulary at the time. So I didn't even know like being resourceful could mean like going out, getting a student loan, maybe finding some way to like make it work, right? I didn't really have any role models to model myself after, and I knew that I had to help out at home anyway. So like, I just knew I had to get a job. So in my last year of high school, when I was asked what I wanted to be, it was very strange, but I came up with two very polar opposite ideas of two choices of what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be either a psychologist or a legal secretary. So they called them legal secretaries back then in the day. Totally different ends of the spectrum, right? And as I was thinking about it, my mom at the time had a friend who was a legal secretary at the time, and she talked me out of it. She said, do not, whatever you do not choose that as your path. Anyway, so because I listened to what she had to say, I at that time, you know, I was young, I was 18, and I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to her. So I went out and found general administrative jobs to start with. However, I ultimately did find myself stepping into being a legal secretary anyway, simply by asking a real estate attorney one day if he was looking for some help. Because you see, at the time, I was a switchboard operator. I saw that his phones were ringing the most. So I just simply went in one day and asked him if he needed help. He said yes, and he trained me. And that's where my career as being in legal began. I received what I wanted, but I always knew, even then, that I wanted to move up the ranks, you know, like achieve more and level up in my chosen career. So reflecting back, I realized that in my late teens, I was in that lax state of mind before I got into that job. I was in my lax state of mind because I didn't realize I could be resourceful. And actually, if I wanted to go to college, I could have found the way, but I wasn't nurtured that way. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that was back in the day. I was in that lax state of mind. Now in my 20s, I went for whatever I wanted to achieve in my life, including leveling up in my career. I simply said and did what I needed to do. I usually got and did what I wanted because I was super confident that I would get it. So reflecting back, I realized that in my 20s, I was super assertive and confident, and I believed in myself. Now in my 30s, this is where things started to change. I started accepting my lot in life. Now I still went after what I wanted, but I started finding myself like accepting what I got, because I guess I started thinking that maybe that's all I deserved. And I didn't even speak up for myself like I used to. Like in my 20s, I was like, I want this. This is what I see. You know, this is what I want. And, like for example, I'll just give you a quick example. That lawyer that I first started working with back in the day when I asked him if he needed help, whenever I wanted a raise, I would go in, I would write on a piece of paper, this is what I do, this is how much I want. I would walk in and I'd say, it's that time of year. I said, this is what I do, and I'd say it out loud. I said, this is what I want. I'd flip the paper over and put it on his desk. He'd come back out and about 15 minutes later and say, okay, that was my negotiating skills. I was super confident. Yeah, I got what I wanted, right? But then I started, as I said, in my 30s, accepting, once I started, I wasn't working for him anymore. I was working for a larger company, a larger law firm. And at that time, I guess I stopped believing in myself, like that whatever I wanted was possible. So now I'm reflecting back, I realized that in my 30s, my confidence level dropped, and I stopped believing that I was worthy or deserving of more. So then in my 40s, I was actually 45 at the time, I started thinking there's got to be more to life and what I could do, but I couldn't think. I had so much swirling up in my mind, like I felt stuck, I really did. And 10 more years passed me by, so I let another 10 years go. I didn't change. So reflecting back, I realized that in my 40s, I started to wake up, but I still didn't have the confidence. And so I allowed my inner villain, my inner negative self-talk to stop me. Now, like a lot of people that I meet daily, I talk to daily, I was feeling like I was on a non-stop hamster wheel that I couldn't get off of, and that seemed to be speeding up every time I tried to make a choice or even to facilitate change in my life. So then at 55, I finally woke up and realized it's time to take action. Like, Leslie, whatever that action might be, it doesn't matter, just do something. So I started researching women's groups just to start networking so I could, find out what other women were doing out there, who were out there making their moves, whatever it was to help transition them into something new, to do what they loved. And so now I'm reflecting back on that, and I realized that in my 50s, early 50s, I started looking back at where I was when I was that assertive and confident woman, and I allowed myself to take action to step into change, right? So this is what I did. I started my self-awareness journey. I figured out the trigger cycle, created strategies that worked, started implementing them in my own life, and I started living a more positive and happier life. I was more clear, I had focus and purpose. I then started sharing it with others and started helping others transform themselves into living their best lives with more confidence, clarity, focus, and purpose. And then I started my free Facebook group, Manager Triggers VIP Academy, which is where you learn to do what I do and what I teach others to do. So it seems like I went on a yo-yo ride where I lived in a lax state of mind in my late teens, believing that I wasn't worthy of more. Then in my 20s, I became more assertive and confident and believed in myself and went after my goals. And I had a lot of success in achieving them. But then in my 30s, my confidence level dropped and I stopped believing that I was worthy or deserving. So then fast forward into my 40s, I start to wake up, but I still don't have confidence. So I allow my inner villain, like as I said, my inner villain is my negative self-talk, to stop me from taking action and facilitating change in my life. So then finally in my early 50s, my 20-year-old self literally comes banging on the door. And finally I realized that if I want things to change, I had to be the one to make that happen. It was on me. So in essence, my inner hero, which is, we have one of those too, a positive self-talk, my inner hero was empowering me to become confident and take my self-awareness journey and step into my purpose, which is my passion, and that is being a coach. And as I reflect back through time, there were times in my life where I believed in myself, and then times in my life where I allowed others to influence me and dim my light, and my inner villain created my truth. But now, fast forward a few decades, now I'm more confident and I allow myself to be fully present in my life, accepting that change is inevitable and also embracing that pivoting has always been and always will be a part of the process. And because of that, because I've done that, I've allowed myself to be in my journey and accepting that and just going through it, putting myself into it wholeheartedly, like all in for me, I've stepped into my passion and many new connections and new opportunities have been revealed to me. It's like so amazing. So now, my challenge for you today on Reflection Friday is to take a journey through your decades, whether it's your 10 years, you go through from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, wherever you're at in your life, going back through your life. Or maybe you want to look at it from the perspective of your teens, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s going forward. Think about where you were, where you were through those decades, how you, like what your coping style was, like how you showed up for yourself, where you are today, and where you're going, like thinking about how you processed your life during those stages of your life, right? And then I want you to think about today. What's your vision for 2020 and moving forward through this next decade? And if you're brave and don't mind sharing, I'm going to just do this myself. If you're brave and you don't mind sharing, post your vision for 2020 in the comments below. If it to the universe that this is your vision and your desire. So please post it in the comments below. And I'm going to go first because I know sometimes people don't like to go first. So here you go. Here's my vision. My vision for 2020 is to be the best coach possible by striving to be the best version of myself every day and to provide tips and strategies for my clients so that they not only see and feel their own positive transformation, but they are more confident in living a more purposeful life with clarity and focus. So what's your vision? I want you to think about it and post it. And real quick, if you're looking for a support-based group where you can learn tips and strategies to implement in your life starting today, so you can start managing your emotions when triggered, then click on the link in the title notes and join this amazing community of people who started down their own path to self-awareness around how they show up when life happens, because this goes on sometimes multiple times a day. I want to thank you so much for watching, whether you are on here live or you're watching it back, whether you are new, welcome, or whether you've been following me for a while, welcome home. I truly appreciate your support. Remember to navigate your day with an attitude of gratitude, because with the right attitude, it will put you in the right mindset for when life happens. And like I said, it's on repeat. I'm Leslie Gaudette, and I'm an empowerment coach. I help my clients achieve self-awareness around their emotions so that they can handle their triggers, manage their emotions, and live a more positive life. I hope you have an amazing day, an absolutely fantabulous weekend, and I'll see you all again on Tuesday for some training. Oh, and don't forget, post your vision below. I look forward to seeing what you got going, what you are putting out into the world as your intent, your desire for your life. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.